welcome to Postcard and to Leigh G. Banks. It's a Sunday. We shouldn't be working on a Sunday, Leigh. We should have a day off, and people who complain are quite right. And you, be honest, have just arisen from the bed.
Well, I'm in lockdown. I've had 5 days, 6 days off, not working, so now I'm working on the Sabbath. Yeah, and I have just got up because I didn't go to bed till 6 o'clock this morning because we've been watching a box set. It's the best box set I've ever seen. It's called F-A-U-A-D-A, Fauda. And it's brilliant. Yeah, watched 17 episodes last night.
You're very sad. I mean, listen, this is not good for the health. You should be walking in the daytime. Are you allowed to walk in Slovakia?
Yeah, you are, and you're quite right. We are pretty shameful on that. We've been getting no exercise at all. It's amazing that I look so scrumptious, actually. But yeah, we do. We need to get back to doing exercise. We used to walk maybe 5 miles a day. Unfortunately, because of Andrea's got a trapped nerve in her leg at the minute. Because of the lockdown, we can't go to the doctors or etc. over it. So we should get rid of it. It'll go in a couple of weeks. But that has stopped us doing any exercise at all.
I know. Now let's have the truth, Leigh. You send her out to the off license or the equivalent, and she's carrying gallons of the stuff back. That's what's caused that.
It could be, but then she's a good wife. It's the kind of wife you want. We've actually found an off license that you'll like this. It's about a 5-minute walk from the apartment, and it's actually a bar, because it's something we're going to talk about in a bit. And it can't open, it can't have customers in. But what it's done, it's owned a good old-fashioned off license. You take your bottles down, just like in the 1940s and 50s, and they fill the bottles for you with their draft beer. And their draft beer is, well, it's not as good as Thwaites', it's not as good as John Willie Lee's, it's not as good as Marston's, it's not as good as anything from Britain, but it's pretty good. And guess what it's called?
Go on.
God Times.
No.
The beer called God Times. When I can't get a bottle now, but when I get a bottle, when we've stopped doing this Loctite, I'll bring it and prove it to you. It's the God Times Brewery. And it is absolutely what you should turn wine into, or water into.
Yes. Well, still in Spain, you know, the bodegas here are still filling bottles with their local wine. And it's, you know, it's less than £1. And it's good stuff. It's not rubbish.
Yeah. Well, we can go out in the car, and we do go out in the car on occasions, go up into the mountains. And if you take your bottles up there, you can get them filled with fresh spring water coming down from the mountains. Now, apparently, this water is something like 3 million years old, and it's naturally sparkling, and it is incredible. You'd think it'd be stale by now, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, it might be 3 million years old, but as soon as they bottle it and said sell by date 2021, doesn't give you a lot of confidence, does it?
Yeah, I know. Honestly, but it's really good. It's good. And now you can get beef burgers through a hole in the wall and things like that. Yeah, honestly, yeah. Knock on the window. It really is like going back to the 50s. Knock on the door, the window goes like that. So what do you want? I want a beef burger, please. Okay, like that. And
my goodness me. Well, there's been some complaints in Britain. We saw some footage on the main news yesterday of people in the Midlands, especially, breaking the ban, collecting themselves in the middle of the town, and the poor plastic policemen were trying to disperse them without much success. But they were the lads. They were the families. I mean, this was, again, one has to say, the news media making a story that wasn't.
Well, I saw the video. You got a very drunken, little skinny chap in a shell suit. Why wearing a shell suit? Because you're in the Midlands, I suppose. Still higher fashion in the Midlands. I live in the Midlands when I'm in Britain. Don't pick on me. And he was obviously a bit wasted on something that was either legal or illegal. And then there was a young lady and another bloke, and they were just being argumentative and showing off. I still see that as news. It was only a short piece, couple of minutes. It just shows the attitude of some of the people in Britain today towards this situation.
Well, yes, we have to apologise, everybody, that we have changed our background. We got so many complaints that the Portuguese weather is always lousy. It had clouds on, so we've gone to a golf course now, and the sun is shining, as you notice. But you notice we are colour coordinated, Leigh and I. We've got the same shirt on, but he's got a special shirt on. Explain, Leigh.
This is the story of my shirt. Do you remember a song by Donovan Leitch called "I Love My Shirt"? I love my shirt. Yeah, he did. That was it. The great Donovan Leitch, the man who was going to step into the old and tired grey boots of Bob Dylan. No, I love my shirt. Well, I love this shirt. Look at it. Look at it. I don't know if you can see. The collar's all worn. Like that. It's got a hole there like that. But the story about it is this shirt is English made. It was made by, I think it was Burberry, if they make shirts, somebody like that who makes shirts. Yeah, posh shirt, right? I bought it in a charity shop 20 odd years ago. So whoever gave it away, who was fed up with it, right, must have had it for a couple of years. So it's got to be, could well be a 30-year-old shirt. And I've worn it at business conferences, rock festivals and everything. And it's still going strong. And I think it still looks very smart. Even with the air hole.
I've got to say at this stage that Andrea has told me she found Leigh in a charity shop about 20 years ago. Probably the same one.
It's not far off, really.
Listen, we have to talk about, of course, it's obligatory, the dreaded virus. Let's talk about the numbers, Leigh, because they never make sense since the beginning of all this. And the longer it goes on, they don't make any more sense.
I couldn't agree with you more. I am, as I've said, for any new viewers, I am a legitimate news journalist. My background is national newspapers in the UK, regional newspapers where I had sort of editorships and that kind of thing. I was night editor on the biggest, deputy night editor on one of the biggest regional morning newspapers. And so I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to investigating things. Now, this is a bit premature because I've not completed any real investigation into this yet, but I've been looking at it. Now, it is claimed that there have been around about 200,000 deaths worldwide because of coronavirus, which, you know, is a shocking figure, But in fact, if you look at the death figures in 2017 and 2016 for the same period, there were 160,000 deaths. No, 120,000 deaths, I apologise. Now that means that coronavirus potentially has only killed 60,000 people more than you would expect to die in that period. Or everybody stopped dying in that period apart from people who got coronavirus. Now I don't think that's possible. I don't think everybody has stopped dying because of coronavirus and only coronavirus kills you. I think there are questions have to be asked about these figures, and I will expand, but I can see you want to say something.
Well, I can agree with that, and I can put maybe in the pot something that will go some way to look at the difference there. And that is that if you certainly get taken to hospital and in other places or old people's homes, they've started allegedly to put those figures in. that everybody is died from that. Never mind they've died from a stroke, a heart attack, or pneumonia. No, it's easier to put COVID. And then they cremate. And without the safeguards of previous cremations, doctor-wise, signing off, there's your 200,000.
Well, that is true. That's another point. This is why I've not actually got around to doing this, turning this into a story yet, because it is a very complicated thing, and I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist who throws those sort of figures about and says all sorts of weird things. I want to be factually correct. But if you remember, we spoke a couple of weeks ago about the fact that I'd been talking to a registrar of births, deaths and marriages, and I don't want in any way to identify them. So them, as they shall be called, revealed to me that them had started registering coronavirus deaths. And they said that the coronavirus deaths they were registering at that particular time were all coming from hospitals, and the hospital was registering the deaths as coronavirus. Now, like you've just said, and I think it's a very important point, when people die of something which we're not sure about what it is that killed them, there are inquests. There are doctors' investigations. There are all sorts of ways of finding out, because it is important for records to know what is a danger to our population. And like you say, there will never, ever be any inquests into these people because they're cremated and they vanish. Now that surely is a point that we need to make clear to everybody, and then start to add up these figures. You know, it's very difficult to find out how many people have died in similar periods. That I've found the figures, but it's very, very difficult to find them. And the flu epidemic, the flu epidemic would have killed actually more than coronavirus has done up to now, generally. So all these figures are very strange and need investigating. Well, trust me, in my tattered old journalist business shirt, I'm investigating.
Why, I've got a serious question to ask you now. Why has the shirt gone at the elbows? What are you doing with your elbows?
You lean on them on the bar like that.
Right, we're going to go into another pet subject of yours, Leigh, and that's the NUJ. Now you're turning against your own. I thought you worshipped the NUJ. They were the people that do everything right and back you up and save you a life of poverty.
The NUJ, in fact, has been very good to me over my career. They have actually saved me in circumstances where I've gone up against major newspaper management and boards, mainly because I didn't agree with what they were actually doing. And again, one of the main one, I'm still bound not to talk about. That's how serious it was. But in principle, it was with the introduction big into the national press, national and regional press in the UK. And the management wanted to amalgamate 3 newspapers and make them one. Well, I just pointed out very simple, one, these 3 different newspapers, they have a different marketplace, and it won't work. And long story short, things started to change in the newsroom. I went to see the editor and said, "Are the long knives out for me?" He says, "Not as far as I'm concerned." I said, "Well, that's okay, because just remember, I can survive by myself." 3 weeks later, I was. So, so yes. The NUJ stepped in, and it was all sorted out. And I was going to say I did very well out of it. I did. I got a lot of money out of it, but that was because I'd lost my job. I was out of work. I've got things to do. And so the NUJ has been very good. The problem now, again, this is a man alone going against the world. I spotted a lot of very left-wing Trotskyist attacks on the media, on newspapers, on journalists, saying how disgusting they were, that we never tell the truth, that we're liars, that we need putting up against the wall and shooting. And I'm thinking, why is the National Union of Journalists site saying this or allowing this to be said? And what kind of journalist is saying that he'd like to be put up against the wall and shot? Thank you very much. Yeah. So I checked it out, and the NUJ have started allowing anybody to become members, particularly on a Facebook site, the National Union of Journalists Facebook site. Now, I would say National Union of Journalists again, because what it is, it's a National Union of Journalists. It's not the National Union of Gardeners. It's not the National Union of Security Men. It's not the National Union of Cooks. It's not the National Union of I Have a Blog. It's the National Union of Journalists.
What do you have to do to get in, Leigh? What qualifications have you got?
Be a journalist. Be a journalist.
Well, anybody can say they're a journalist.
Yes, they can, and that's the problem. Everybody does. This all began when this ridiculous term citizen journalist came about. Everybody thought they could be a journalist because they could say, I'm a citizen journalist. What that means is you're inarticulate, you can't write, you don't have a proper informed opinion, you don't investigate anything, you take rubbish photographs and you call yourself a citizen journalist. That's been one of the bugbears that I've had for years. Now, having said that, there are some very good citizen journalists, particularly in war zones, who do brilliant work. Generally, just some old lady sitting there in a back room says, oh, I think I'll become a citizen journalist, and starts to write about a dog and a pussycat. Well, that's not being a journalist. That's being an old lady sitting in your back room writing about your dog and your pussycat. And so the NUJ now, I think it is a political move. And again, being a conspiracy person, right? I think this is a move in some strange ways to take over the media, to influence the media from within the union. And I think it's absolutely shameful. I couldn't go and join the nurses union, call myself a nurse. But one last adage to this is this, and that is the fact, right? One of the benefits of being in the NUJ is that you get a National Union of Journalists press pass. That's a little card that says who you are, that says you're a member of the union, says who you are, and gives all sorts of details. Now, that was an invaluable thing within the journalistic society. It got you into all sorts of places that generally the public wouldn't get into, particularly if you were using it as for news values. Some people use it for other things like that. So the NUJ pass was a way of identifying who is and who isn't a bona fide journalist. Now, I came across a chap who, again, I won't name, who claimed to be, who claimed to be a journalist and had a journalist, an NUJ journalistic pass. Now, I got on to this, so why has he got a pass? I said, I'm sorry, I can't talk about it with you, I can't discuss it. So, well, I know he's not a journalist, so why, I'm telling you that he shouldn't have an NUJ pass. Why, how did he get one? Do you not check it? They said, we cannot discuss this situation with you. It's data protection. So really what that means is now that the union, the National Union of Journalists, the ones that who give credit to bona fide journalists like me, right, will now not tell anybody whether somebody who's walking around with a press card actually is a journalist or isn't. So in a fundamental way, they have destroyed their business of qualifying who is a journalist and who isn't.
Well, yes, I mean, I've got a journalist card, the Federation of European Broadcasters, and I call it my get out of jail card free because it's very useful in certain circumstances. But what has happened to journalism is, well, it's been taken over by social media in part. And as I said before, anybody can call themselves a journalist. And as long as you regard social media as being probably 0.25% true, maybe it's all right. But things are changing. Don't forget, most journalists now come out of uni. They are completely brainwashed. I'm going to get into trouble, but I'll still say it, by the left liberal etiquette. They're not impartial. You wonder why the BBC is not impartial, and it isn't. This is why. But I mean, when you get journalists like John Sopel, who much respected for many years, BBC's correspondent in the US, and then he comes on, he's so anti-Trump. Well, you've got to make your own opinion up about Trump. All I can say is you do not get the truth, the whole truth, in Western Europe about Trump. It's absolutely diabolical what comes over about the man. Anyway, whether you like him or not, there he was, invited to one of Trump's conferences. And as most people know about Corona, he's got that fed up being attacked. Because don't forget, America is a different planet. There's no balance at all in the newspapers like we have, for instance, in Britain and other countries. There's a fairly decent balance. If you read The Guardian, you know what you're going to get. If you read The Mirror, you know what you're going to get. If you read the Tory graph, you know what you're going to get. But in America, it's all the biggies anyway are certainly extreme democratic, left-wing. And he's got these people railing at him all the time. And blow me down, John Sopel goes there and has a go. If he'd have talked that way to the Prime Minister of Britain that he talked to Trump, the President of America, he'd have been thrown out of the room. He was absolutely insulting during that interview. And Trump, as one has got to say, was patient. And then he says at the end of his piece, on, of course, the Today program, Radio 4, which again is ultra left-wing, he says, this man doesn't realize that Fox News has now even turned against him. The only television channel that was right of center has turned against him. Without an explanation, that was his excuse for saying that this is right. No, it's not. The reason Fox News has gone a little left is because the two guys that run it, Murdoch's sons, have married themselves to extreme left-wing activists. That's the real reason. Now, sorry, John Sopel, you should do your homework without putting forth those kind of comments.
I know exactly what you're talking about, but let's just take a step back. And you played the impartiality card, which a lot of people do. Now, there is no impartiality does not mean that you don't have an opinion. Every broadcaster in the BBC has an absolute right to an opinion. What the impartiality means is that you are fair and give a balanced report. And if you give an opinion, then you've got to give the other opinion. Newspapers, you quite rightly say, are the cornerstone of our society, or one of the cornerstones of our society as the fourth estate. Something which I had a row on the NUJ site with a load of pretend journalists who didn't know it existed. They made it up. What are you talking about? Oh, you big... Anyway.
My goodness me.
Yeah, and that's it. They didn't know. They've all been to university and done media courses and journalists. Do you know what? What makes you a journalist is anybody can go out and take photographs, and that's what you are. You're a photographer. You only become a journalist when you manage to sell them and get them published. Grow up. So anyway, the newspapers are basically there to give every different aspect of political views, etc. Trump is ridiculous. Now, the whole story this week has been about him telling everybody to inject themselves with bleach. Well, he didn't. He didn't. Even I've got to be fair to him. He didn't actually say inject yourself.
No, he didn't. I've read the whole transcript. It was just typical lefty bias again.
Well, no, because what he did, you see, at first I had that thought, because that's what I have to do as a real journalist. I have to look at it and think, well, is that right? Is it right? The headlines basically said Trump says drink bleach. And I'm thinking those headlines are not right. But then I listened to it again. And in fact, there were, what he said was maybe bleach could help, maybe disinfectant can be. And he looked at his medical person there and said, "Is it basically?" He said, "Is it something we should look into?" She had her head down like that, going, "Oh, for God's sake!" And well, then I looked at it. I thought, well, yes, if you have the world's most powerful idiot, right, saying that bleach or disinfectant might help in the defeating of this coronavirus thing, then the world, the lesser idiots of this world, might actually start doing bleach and disinfectant to get rid of it. Because he said it cleans out your lungs, see?
I have two bits of news for you, Leigh, and one is breaking news, actually. I only found this out about half an hour ago. That was said to be as a sort of sarcastic remark, so Trump said. But the truth is now, believe it or not, in the southern parts of the States, there's been 3 deaths, I understand, for people actually injecting themselves with disinfectant. My goodness me, only in America?
Well, I can't be. Well, no, I don't think it will be. I think there are a lot of other places that'll happen, like Miles Platted in Manchester. And
you don't like Miles Platting, do you, in Manchester?
I used to work on the Gordon Open show before. It was on my patch. No, I don't like Miles Platting. But it's, well, if that is true, which I'm sure it is, then it's horrendous. Now, the idiots, I'm saying idiot a lot. I'm sorry to all the idiots for keep saying idiot. But if Trump hadn't said it, then they probably wouldn't have done it. Now, then there is the argument, if the press hadn't said that Trump had said it, then they probably wouldn't have done it. But then you have to say, well, he was doing it on a live broadcast. So why can't you cover it? And it's not our fault that people are stupid enough to go and inject themselves with disinfectant because it cleans your lungs.
Listen, we're going to move on. We're getting too excited. It's not good at our age. Now, listen.
The camera keeps going like that, doesn't it? The best thing he said to me, this was his best direction for me. He says, if you're going to make your camera jump up and down like that, he says, you've got to jump up and down at the same time with it.
Technical advice, yes, that's true.
Technical advice.
Right, hey, listen, there's some fallout in the future. It's already been mooted. Britain, as an example, and all other countries cannot afford all this coronavirus locking down. It's going to cost us and bankrupt us. The first people that are going to suffer, I'm a champion of the grannies, are the grannies and the granddads, because this triple lock protection is going to be one of the first things to go. So your pension, everybody, is going to go up by 0 or 0.001%, not 2 or 3% a year that you have now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's, I'm going to have to go off at a tangent. I know I said when I came on, I said I wasn't in a bad mood, but I'm in a really bad mood now. And it's about the fact, why is everybody saying that the world's going to go bankrupt because it's been on lockdown for a month or so? If it was on proper lockdown, if nobody could go to work and nobody sold anything, nobody baked bread, nobody delivered fish fingers, nobody did anything, then yes, there is a potential that it might suffer financially. Well, it would suffer financially. But the reality of the situation is this. Many bus drivers are at work. Bus drivers go to work, nurses go to work, banks are open. People who can do it, and the majority of people can, are working from home, right? So this lockdown actually isn't as frightening financially as it's being made out, because the world is going on and doing what it's always done. Little bit of a blow. Yeah, we could be a few trillion pounds out at the end of it all, but it's not the end of the financial world, which if it was, might not be a bad thing.
No. Don't like agreeing with him, but he's right. I'll give you another headline from the last week from 2 serious financial papers. And we always say, as it were, in the trade, well, don't believe that paper and that paper. look at the FT, not strictly true in some occasions. Look at other papers, serious papers, because everything depends on the dollar, the money, and they'll tell you the truth, never mind what their political editor wants to tell you. But these newspapers have let us down. Big headlines this week: calamity, look what's happened 1.5 months into the virus. It's tanked. The spending of the great British person has tanked. And I thought, well, grief, what do you expect? But then I looked at the figures, 5% down. And I thought, blooming heck, if the weather turns cold and you don't go out and buy summery things in March, that'll have the same effect. But
I agree.
It's doom and gloom.
It was a very strange thing, that headline. I saw it, and by that time I'd formulated my own view, the same as yours, that really we're not in that much trouble. Yes, it's going to hurt us. It is going to hurt us. But 5% down over a couple of months it's not like it hasn't happened before. What happened in the war years? Also, inflation's down by 1.5. You know, it's all there. We have clever enough bankers and people in that kind of trade who can rescue us from this. So can the government. So can that nice Boris.
Well, Boris is back tomorrow, indeed. And some people are saying because of the influence of the virus on him, he's not going to release us from our lockdown very early. He's going to ask us to be more and more patient. And I'm going to bring things really to home for you, Leigh. And that is pubs and restaurants are really going to take a beating if this goes on. It's all right saying eventually they can separate tables. But if you talk to your mate in a pub, you don't want to shout across the pub to divulge some secret piece of information. The other thing that's going to come out of this is how much crime has gone down. How much crime can we attribute to booze? Lots of things. It's going to sort out a lot of things.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more. Restaurants and pubs, obviously, are a big part of most countries' life. It's where you meet friends. It's where you meet family. It's where you meet. It's where you have rows. It's where you get drunk. It's where you do all sorts of things. And it's where you meet your future wife sometimes, or somebody else's. And it's just a way of life. And in Slovakia, the attitude is that the same thing. Restaurants and pubs will be the last to come out of lockdown. But what they're doing, and it's not happened yet, but the idea is that because it's a cafe society, really, and people live outside in the short summer months, because the summer months are very good, but very much like in Spain or Portugal. But what they will be doing is people will literally be sitting on curbstones. They will leave space between them. No longer will there be waitress or waiter service. You will have to go to a little window, which you don't like that, and say what you want. And you say, "A pint of beer, please," and they go, "Okay," and close it again. Well, that's a return. Our whole lifestyle is going to be changed in so many ways. It's a travesty. And pubs are a barometer of the way of life. You know, I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but we are going to start a campaign for all this beer that's going to be go to waste in pubs. Give it to your neighbours. Give it to the people who've supported your pub. Take it out. You can go out in the middle of the night and put a couple of pints on the doorstep for them. Don't just waste it.
Well, he's all heart, isn't he? Right, to go out with, Spain has been locking people up in their houses and apartments terribly. Kids not being able to get out, no balconies, as we've mentioned before, no gardens. They've given a sort of dispensation that you can go to the chemist, occasionally to the supermarket, and to the bank. And you can take your children. Well, that's crackers. The last thing mum and dad want to do is take kids there. They're just nothing but problems. They want them outside in a park. So Spain have listened. And from tomorrow, families will be allowed on the beaches. with due separation, but they've gone from the sublime to the ridiculous. They're letting them all out. Where does the virus pass from? Kids. My goodness me. Observations, Leigh.
Well, I was just thinking what you were saying then. You know, schools are the first places that are going to go back in Britain. And I think, well, most kids spend most of the childhood being ill.
Yeah.
You know, coughs and sneezes. I'm not being silly about not insulting children, but they have coughs and sneezes. They have runny noses. They don't know how to self-isolate. They're always running up to each other and cuddling and kissing and everything. So, yeah, I think children are a basic danger within this situation, with the greatest respect to children. I'm not having a go at children. But why are we allowing children? Is it because it's survival of the fittest? Is it like taking a bird into a mine to see if it's to chuck a child out, see what happens to it? You know, it's absolutely
well,
shameful.
it is. A dark secret of my past, of course, is that I used to be a teacher for a small number of years, and it is well known in the first 2 years of teaching in a classroom, the teachers have half the time off with colds, flus, because they pick it up until they get immunity. It's a breeding ground, it's an incubation. But these are our politicians again deciding what we should do. Should it not be, and I said finally, but I'll say finally, should it not be more negotiable with the population, with the voters? Should we have more open discussions? We think that's daft.
It's the unwieldliness of it, isn't it? And you know, we had a referendum on Brexit. How many years did that take? And still people don't agree. You know, we actually, for whatever reason, have chosen this system of proportional representation, and we put people into power over us, and they become dictators. The only difference between Britain and Russia is that our dictators we can get rid of after 5 years.
Yes. He says it all. Leigh, it's been a joy. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, no problem at all.